Hey everyone, today I have a very interesting theory for you guys. So as you probably know, the Crewniverse released a series of mini episodes on iTunes for Steam viewers a while back. One of these is Steven Reacts. In summary, Steven watches the newest episode of Crying Breakfast Friends in a YouTube reaction style video. The short itself brings out a lot of meta references to fandoms, cartoons, and of course, hiatuses. It's not news that the Crying Breakfast Friends has been likened to Steven Universe in the past. It's a show about crying, singing food items within a show about crying, singing gems. The plot line in this episode centers on the arrival of three mysterious new characters called the Angry Lunch Enemies, whose goal is to toss out breakfast and institute a new reign of lunch. It is very interesting how these characters first appear because of their marked resemblance to the Homeworld trio, and the entire scene mirrors how we first encounter the Homeworld trio when they arrive in The Return. We are introduced to Jasper, a sandwich, big, imposing, aggressive. To one side we have Peridot, initially antagonistic, with Hamburger going as far as to shout when Pear is crying. And then we have Pizza, who's plain on top but underneath the cheese is an entire backstory we have yet to fully hear about. And it's very similar to Lapis when we first met her, unwilling to tell Steven much aside from what we already felt was true. So let's start with that. Even before the arrival in the message, Lapis is afraid. She didn't feel at home in Homeworld, a place she had been wanting to return to for hundreds of years. She feels threatened and she decides to play it safe and keep her cards close to her chest. When she arrives on the handship, she doesn't say anything unless first asked by Jasper. The only time she intervenes and when she feels Steven was put in danger. But even then, had she not spoken, we wouldn't have known she still cared about Steven. She's very adept at presenting impassivity and playing by ear. Pizza looks threatening when they arrive, and Pizza looks as angry as the other lunches. And something that lacks exploration is that Lapis is angry. She's been hurt, trapped, and forgotten. More than anything, she feels shortchanged. Several times now, Lapis has conducted herself in a manner far higher than what we've known her to be, a civilian. It shows how powerful she is, in a way Jasper and Peridot could not have predicted. Jasper framed fusing with Lapis as helping the latter. Jasper saw Lapis as weak and was willing to borrow someone's strength to exact revenge. She completely underestimated what she was getting into. Lapis knows she deserves better, and when she first came back to Earth, she was angry and destructive. She's a plain cheese pizza with no toppings left to lose. And this explained why she was so willing to entomb herself with Jasper at the bottom of the ocean. At one point, Lapis tells Jasper it wasn't relevant to the mission. This implies that she knew what the mission was, evaluating the growth of the cluster. Lapis knew Earth was a ticking time bomb, yet she chose to stay. Her behavior speaks of someone with nothing left. This is in stark contrast to the Lapis who told Steven to do whatever they tell us, and maybe they'll go easy on us in Jailbreak. That Lapis was still hoping for a future back on Homeworld. After the ship crashed, she likely believed that they would be in too much trouble to ever start afresh. So when Lapis decided to trap Jasper, she knew there was no going back. And the anger didn't stop there. From Alone at Sea, we know that Lapis wasn't just holding Jasper down. In Lapis's words, I took everything out on you, and I liked it. Lapis, who felt she lost all control, was trying to gain some of it back. She was hurting and wanted someone to suffer with her. At this point, it can't be said that Lapis kept Jasper down for so long, only to protect Steven. There was a lot of personal wrath she was unleashing, and it wasn't all directed towards Jasper. If Lapis's anger is so evident though, it seems interesting to note that Peridot is an angry burger. In contrast to Lapis, she doesn't seem characterized by moments of anger. Rather, it seems more likely that Peridot has been rendered helpless. As mentioned though, Burger is initially antagonistic, telling Pear to stop crying. At this point, it's rather relevant to whom Pear's counterpart is. In this short, Pear is the clear protagonist. It is Pear's party being crashed, and it's Pear being told to stop crying. Going back to canon, Steven reaches out to Peridot before anyone else does. It makes sense that with regards to first impressions, Peridot was the first real threat Steven felt from Homeworld. It was Peridot's arrival which signaled Homeworld's renewed interest in Earth in a way that could not be blasted or punched away. And many will say that this angry doesn't seem to be a word that describes Peridot. But put it in this way, Peridot on a Homeworld was a fully functional gem, treated like an adult, giving her own assignments to do solo. On Earth, there is a smallness attributed to her. Yes, she looks small, yes she is physically weaker, but she doesn't want to be. We know that now Peridot loves Earth. She's trying to live by making her own choices about her identity, something she wasn't able to do back on Homeworld. But Peridot has shown many times that she misses feeling capable, and like she can handle herself. She misses the height she had when she was wearing her limb enhancers. She wants to be able to lift things she once could lift easily, and more importantly that other gems can do naturally as well. Peridot came to Earth frustrated that everyone was breaking her things. She was scared because from her perspective, the crystal gems were trying to hurt her. She wanted to do her mission and go home, but she couldn't. And then she got trapped on Earth, alone. And then she lost her foot. And then she was poofed and captured by gems she probably thought were going to make use of her, then bubble her again, or worse, harvest her. Despite still being angry after all these things, she could not entirely show it, because she was afraid she'd be punished again. Layer by layer, things were being stripped off of her. Her mission, her enhancers, her autonomy, and her freedom. So, Peridot is burger. You could just leave the patty in 2 buns and it'd still be a burger, but the burger would taste better with lettuce, tomatoes, condiments, cheese, and all of its other toppings. This mirrors the return, as the characters have changed much since then. Peridot is learning to be more sensitive and to be more attuned to how others feel. These changes won't come naturally to her or any of the other Homeworld Gems because of old habits and means of socialization. Regardless, things are changing, and in these changes, Peridot and Lapis have changed within the matrices of their own values. Lapis was against the crystal gems because, in her words, they don't care about other gems. She never believed in Earth because of the growing tensions that had surrounded it. Then Lapis saw that the crystal gems could care. She found Steven, and later she understood Peridot. Lapis looked at humanity and eventually realized it could be a fresh start for her. This mirrors how Homeworld was alien to her, yet she still tried to give it a chance. Lapis's loyalty is hard-earned, but very, very strong. In the same way, Peridot, within the matrix of her own values, which are logic and pragmatism, found Earth as primarily a place where Homeworld could benefit from, with its organic life as one of the key elements that could help Homeworld's resource shortage. Her leaving Homeworld for good was a product of realizing that Homeworld wasn't acting rationally, that her paragon of logic, Yellow Diamond, wasn't perfectly objective after all. Peridot is incredibly resourceful, and that's why she's been surviving as long as she has, even before she was captured. So it should be said that Peridot and Lapis haven't changed themselves at the core. The environment around them and the information available to them, those things changed and affected their decisions. So for these two characters, Crime Breakfast Friends offers a retrospective view of how the characters behaved. At the end of the short, burger is still burger, and pizza is still pizza. And that's because, by and large, they haven't changed who they fundamentally are. The one character who does undergo changes is Sandwich. By the end of the short, Sandwich changes dramatically, and Sandwich is supposed to represent Jasper. At the time of the return, it was imperative that Jasper appear menacing. Because hints at backstory tend to humanize characters, rather than offering a retrospective view of Jasper, the short gives us a perspective hint into Jasper's return in the series and the events that follow her arc. Out of the 3 angry lunches, it is Sandwich who takes the lead. By and large, we learn about Lunch's plan to overthrow Breakfast from Sandwich, and it's interesting how the conflict was resolved. In true Senior's fashion, we see Spoon talking Sandwich out of the angry Lunch enemy's plan to eradicate Breakfast altogether, so it's rather significant to ask whom Spoon might represent. Spoon is physically tall, slim, with blue eyes and an oval head over a straight body. Spoon is also the first one to rush to Pear and ask why the latter is crying. While the last bit isn't mutually exclusive to Pearl, the words used are something she would say. It's not our protagonist, Pear, but Spoon who manages to reach out to Sandwich and say things like, "Things don't have to be this way." It speaks volumes about how similar Pearl's and Jasper's positions were back on Homeworld. They are 2 individuals boxed into a very specific role, with very specific expectations of them, and that was the core of Pearl's problem. Pearls were expected to be an extension of their owners. That's a lot of suppressing one's identity. As an example, take Blue Pearl. She doesn't speak at all in the answer, and on the surface she appears to be perfectly subservient. But upon a closer inspection, that is not the case. Blue Pearl says nothing while Sapphire and Blue Diamond discuss the upcoming attack on them, but she turns her head abruptly. Her mouth shapes into the look of concern. Despite being socialized otherwise, she has opinions and beliefs. At present, Jasper is caving under the weight of trying to be the quartz people expect her to be. Jasper is expected to always know what she's doing and never fail. What does she say in Crack the Whip? Jaspers never give up. Jaspers keep going until we get what we want. Notice she's not talking about herself alone. She's talking about Jaspers in general, the collective. These are what Jaspers have been told they should be, and what Jasper is trying hard to emulate. Now that she's back on Earth, a place where we're led to believe she was so triumphant the first time, we see that she has failed at all the things she was supposed to do. Does that make her less of a Jasper? Does that make her defective too? Would another Jasper have succeeded? These are the thoughts that are running through Jasper's head. She's deconstructing her narrative right now in the same way that we are. It is very appropriate then that Sandwich is first disassembled. That's exactly what's happening to Jasper right now. Corruption, a tear in the fabric of one's mind. By the end of Earthlings, Jasper was already beginning to doubt herself. "You can't manipulate me" sounds very much like something inside Jasper is changing, and she thinks she's come to these conclusions because she's being manipulated. She's losing sight of who she is. Are 2 slices of bread and a slice of cheese a sandwich? Not if you don't put them together. Jasper is coming undone, and the show tells us that this is a key part to her redemption. What is needed is a self-examination. It's not going to be comfortable, and Jasper's been putting it off for so long that she's hit the extreme. Corruption. Because if Jasper had been more certain in her mind, I doubt she would have been corrupted from fusing with the corrupted quartz. In the fusion space, there would have been a firm wall between them, their identities still clear and separate. The thing is, Jasper felt like a failure, the same thing she views the corrupted quartz to be. She was starting to feel like one of them, and that made her susceptible to corruption as well. What Sandwich's story tells us is that Jasper will come out changed on the inside. On their surface, Sandwich still looks like Sandwich, 2 slices of bread. It is on the inside that we can see the pieces added. The ending speaks of how fusion will be an integral path to Jasper's redemption. Jasper needs to learn that fusion, for the right reasons, can be healthy and empowering. And this might just be the story we're gonna get. This entire minisode centers on the idea that you can't make a group last with the ideology that you're only all antagonists and enemies. It's not sustainable because while you might be united against a common cause, you stand for nothing after that enemy is gone. And anger is exhausting and draining, not sustaining. Jasper as Sandwich in particular shows that the rigid social hierarchy is harmful from the top to the bottom, something we've also seen many times in the show. Living things change and are dynamic. Any static system undermines that. And with that was a way that Jasper might just get redeemed in the show, as well as some analysis about Peridot and Lapis. Pretty interesting, don't you think? As always, let me know your thoughts about this theory. A huge thank you to our many Patreon supporters, and to the writer of this analysis, Poet of the Piano. Thank you guys for watching!